is KIC Radio.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Southbank Podcast. I'm your host today, Cameron Gorman, and I'm joined by the ever-present Jacob Jones, fresh off the back of a travel to Selhurst Park, which must have been very frustrating if you were in the stands.
Yeah, frustrating. One, because of the game. Two, because I could only see half of it from where I was sat, right below the roof, which of course is the gantry in a stupid place, so you can only really see half of the pitch. But yeah, it's a new ground for me to tick off before we go down, and God knows when we'll play there again.
Yeah, the unfortunate reality, or fortunate if you're in a seat similar to Jacob's. I thought Wolves actually started off the game very brightly on Sunday. Nice little 2 p.m. kickoff. Weather was looking decent for once.
Yeah.
Contrast to all the rain that started off the year. And yeah, I think for the first 20 minutes, really, Wolves pretty much dominated. And then Palace only really, I feel, began to grow into the game around that 20-minute mark. We had a chance around the 25th minute with a good turn from Mane, Tolu having a shot. There was a save from a Bellegarde free kick in the 31st minute, which looked like a very good effort. And Palace hit the post, Jeremy Pino having a few chances actually in that first half. I thought, just to note, that Palace's set-piece routines in that first half are actually proving quite an issue for Wolves. They clearly worked on it in the training ground, and it was paying dividends to create them some chances. Bellegarde had another shot deflected, and a great save by Henderson. And I'm not going to get to the obvious chance of the first half yet, but Jacob, what were your thoughts on all these chances as we approach the end of the first half?
I said to my mate, it was just a few rows in front of me, I said, we're going to regret missing these chances, and ultimately we did. You could tell that we were drastically on top, I felt. I thought there's only really one team in the game, aside from the chance where he hit the post off the corner. In terms of an open play, it was all Wolves. I thought Mane was really good on the half turn.
Yeah.
Bellegarde was finding a lot of space to release. I'm going to have some criticisms of him in the second half, but release Jackson Chapchua down that right hand side, who I thought actually attempted to use his pace for once this game. Maybe to not only prevail, but beggars can't be choosers. But I think it was a good half from Wolves, and I think the thought going into just before the obvious one was we need to take one of these chances, and Palace were also rattled as well. I thought Will Hughes was very lucky to still be on the pitch by the time we got the penalty, as was another player, which I'm sure we'll get to once we get on to the penalty. Perhaps he could have had a reason to have left the pitch. I thought the referee wasn't very good on Sunday, but that's not the reason we lost. Ultimately, we lost because in these half an hour, especially exchanges, Cameron, that you just mentioned, we didn't take one of the chances that fell to us.
Yeah, I completely agree. Wolves clearly not found that finishing touch. I actually think the Will Hughes sending off, before we get to the other potential sending off, I thought the Will Hughes one was more nailed on than the one we're going to mention afterwards. I
Definitely.
was quite shocked, especially watching the game on TV this time round, to see the ref not brandish a second yellow card. It was definitely a yellow card challenge. And while I think it would have been a bit soft per se, I think when ours is particularly soft, you can't really not give that second yellow.
But it's one of those as well where his second challenge is extremely similar to the first challenge. So at that point, he hasn't learned from the first challenge he's put in, and therefore should be cautioned again, in my opinion. Especially when we'll talk about the red card we have in the second half. I mean, for me, the Will Hughes one is far more endangering, far more impactful on the game than what we end up getting a red card for in the second half.
I would completely agree. Anyway, the first half was unfortunately not over, and it would have been a blessing for Wolves if it had ended here. However, Wolves actually had a good chance, a very good chance, and Mateus Mane was suddenly rushing through on goal. He gets into the opposition box, and then he's shot down from behind by Adam Wharton. Now, Adam Wharton is booked. Wolves are awarded a penalty. Jacob, Do you think, firstly, that he should have had more?
I mean, in the letter of the law, you've got this double jeopardy rule, don't you? So
Yeah.
technically, no. But for me, they covered it up by saying that was an attempt to play the ball when there just wasn't. He's
No,
completely
he
took
did not get
down
the ball at
Marnie.
all.
He's not tried to play the ball in the slightest. He's simply seen Mane through on goal and took the penalty and brought him down. No doubt because he will have had confidence in his goalkeeper, who is a. I know we'll get on to the kick taker and how average, if that's even, that's probably giving it too much. The
That's a
penalty was,
compliment.
but he is a good shot stopper from penalties. So I think
Yeah.
that's a tactical play to stop us from scoring, and that for me, in the letter of the law, like I say, isn't a red card, but it is a red card challenge for me.
I would personally agree. When you have a keeper as reliable as Dean Henderson, too, when it comes to shot stopping on pens, you probably feel like you can't afford to take that risk. I think he was also very lucky to not be the last man, only just behind. But yeah, Wolves get a penalty, and for a minute, I was ecstatic, as I'm sure you and all the other travelling fans were. And then Tolu, who didn't win the pen, firstly. That's my first criticism. Tolu didn't win the pen. He steps up to take it. I was wondering, do we not have better options, such as Adam Armstrong or Ladislav Krejci actually having an impressive penalty record also? Adam Armstrong has scored 21 out of 26
Yeah,
penalties in his career.
exactly what I was about to say. That was exactly what's been said in the stands.
Yeah.
Even if you're going to give it to, I know he's a young lad. Mane won the penalty with Tolu's
Yeah.
abhorrent
I,
record. Why would you give it to him?
I agree. Also, Krejci has scored 13 out of 14 penalties in his career. And then you have the man who took the penalty, Tolu Rokodare, who has missed his last four penalties. You have to wonder, really, why this choice was made. I didn't exactly see Tolu being forceful to teammates on the TV, being like, I want to take the pen. So you would have to imagine that this decision came from Rob Edwards. Now, I have two criticisms of this, regardless of the finish itself, or I think that's generous calling it that. One, Strand Larson will also know all the penalty takers. He was directing Dean Henderson at which way to dive for this penalty. Now, surely in this situation, Adam Armstrong, who's joined after Strand Larson's departure, would be the best option here because Strand Larson is not going to be able to advise his goalkeeper as to which direction to be diving. That's another little criticism, but realistically, it should matter who's taking the penalty. You should be scoring it. Now, Tolu, you could just tell where he was going to go with this before he even stepped up, and you could tell that he was going to hit it the way he did. It was an absolutely terrible penalty, and it means Wolves have now missed, is it 2 or 3 successive penalties?
I mean, at least make it difficult for the goalkeeper. He
Yeah.
passes it to him. I mean, I'd rather, I said in the stands, I'd rather you belt it over the crossbar 50 yards, over 50 meters, whatever, over the crossbar, and pass it to the goalkeeper. It was pathetic. Honestly, it was pathetic. And I can see it caused massive frustration. Of course, I think we'll touch on it slightly and then don't want to give it too much airtime. The abuse he's received after is unacceptable. To me, doesn't from the Wolves post doesn't seem to be many Wolves fans, as in match going fans. Seems to be a lot of fake accounts on Instagram, surprisingly, um, etc. Which of course isn't right, but massive frustration. He shouldn't have been taking the penalty. And he should do a better job of it as a Premier League striker, regardless of whether he takes penalties or not. And if we would have gone into the break 1-0 up, that place would have been toxic, Selhurst Park. It was quiet anyway until they scored. And it would have really, really dampened the atmosphere. You made a good point about Adam Armstrong, who should have took the pen anyway. I thought was having a fantastic game in that first half as
Yeah,
well.
I would agree.
Playing with confidence.
I thought he was unlucky to be the one brought off after the red card.
Well, I was going to mention that later. Yeah, I think Rob Edwards, in many regards, who I've had a fair bit of praise for this past week, got it really wrong on Sunday. I think he has a lot of the blame to take for the result, does Rob Edwards. But yeah, very frustrating.
I would agree with that analysis. Yeah, all of us at the Southbank Podcast would like to condemn any of the abuse directed towards players. It's been a sad theme in football this week, but like you said, we don't want to give such horrific treatment the airtime it doesn't deserve. Now, at halftime, Jacob, what were your initial thoughts, along with all the travelling fans in the entry?
I mean, the people I was speaking to next to me, we all just knew what was coming after that missed penalty.
Yeah,
Completely flipped the script. We've said it before, of course, being Wolves fans. Um, and yeah, it was a lot of frustration. One from two potential red cards not being given, a missed penalty. And I mean, even in the 2 minutes after that penalty, before the whistle was blown, you could sense the shift
yeah,
immediately. The Crystal Palace drummer started coming out of his shell, which was really weird. They just drum for about the whole game and don't chant
very
with it.
strange.
It's just a drum going. It's quite weird. But yeah, I think we all just knew what was coming in that second half.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think surprisingly, we actually started off the second half quite well, though. I thought we didn't look as phased as I expected us to be upon the restart. And Wolves were quite positive overall. Now, like you say, the momentum was always going to shift here. And that momentum didn't ultimately shift due to Alice creating a glut of chances. It didn't come down to them getting an early goal in this second half. It came at the 60th minute when Ladislav Krejci earned himself a second yellow card for kicking the ball away after the ref's whistle. I personally think this is just a very stupid mistake by Krejci. I think it's a harsh sending off, but unfortunately, I don't think you can argue that it isn't one.
I don't know personally. I'm still quite on the fence, particularly in the ground. It was quite confusing because obviously happened the other side. Couldn't really see what happened. But for me, I honestly only Cressy will know himself if he thinks he's still playing because it's very tight to whether it goes out or not. And him and Larson are still both contesting the ball at this point. So is he trying to kick it off Larson to get something or clear the ball, still thinking it's in play? But regardless of that, if he has kicked it away, it's a silly thing to do on a yellow card. But I still think, regardless of that, this referee we had is a new ref, only his second Premier League game. In the first one, he sent two players off for Everton against us at Hill Dickinson Stadium. But I think an experienced ref probably uses common sense a bit and goes, "Let this one slide." I didn't give the one in the first half against Will Hughes. I'm not going to give one for kicking the ball away. But a new ref, I think he's trying to play everything to the law as close as he can to try and impress his employers at the Premier League, try and keep his name on further game weeks, further games in the Premier League, which is understandable, I suppose. But I just think when you haven't given the two in the first half, particularly the Will Hughes one, which would have been a second yellow like Cressy's was, I don't see how you can then deem this a second yellow. I think the consistency is where the annoyance is more so than the actual decision itself. Someone next to me proved half a point, I'd say. But there are balls everywhere these days. Like it's not wasting much time. There's a ball right next to him. I know that's not the point. The point is the dissent involved in the action. But I just think common sense has got to come into it, particularly when you've let one go in the first half in the manner that he had.
I would agree. I think it's a fine line for the referee to tread, however, especially when in the replay it looked like there was a decent few seconds
Mm,
after the whistle blown where Christian decides to get away. You see Strand Larson come off him and start walking away actually before he kicks it, and I feel like it was just a bit of stupidity. And then unfortunately, after that red card, we all knew what was going to happen, no matter how long it took. Wolves were never going to be able to win in that situation with 10 men. Surprisingly, we still made a bit more of a game than I thought we would.
mm.
And we managed to last until the 89th minute. It was Aston Villa loanee, a player Wolves were actually interested in the summer. Um, Gassond getting his first goal for the club off the bench. And Wharton plays the ball out wide to Mitchell, who puts the ball in for Gassond and makes it 1-0. And ironically, it's one of the first low crosses they actually put in all game. A lot of their crosses just been getting dealt with by Bueno, Cresci, prior to his dismissal as well quite easily. It's one aspect of Wolves' game I feel we did quite well with. But it couldn't be kept out forever. Jacob, what were your thoughts on the unfortunate goal?
Well, tackle the goal first. It's a switch off massively. Jackson Chapchua lets the cross come in from his side, doesn't get out to Mitchell fast enough. And then uncharacteristically, João Gomez is caught ball watching and Gessend gets the wrong side of him, pokes it in. Sar's got no chance with the pace of the ball. He's never going to save it. But it shouldn't have got to that point. It's a massive switch off in the 90th minute. I actually thought we defended quite resolutely with 10 men. Limited Palace to barely even a handful of decent chances, despite only having the 10 men on for us.
They only had 3 shots on target all game.
See, precisely. But for me, I need to dig out Rob Edwards here, and I don't like to do so. But for me, he should have brought Tolu off instead of Armstrong. I think Armstrong was the one who was running around trying to win the ball back. The whole game was actually looking good on the ball as well. Whereas Tolu, for me, still had his head up his backside, still doing the penalty miss. Didn't look good. Wasn't really committing anything, and I think it was a waste of a sub. Really, I think
I
I'd
can
much
understand
rather.
his thinking.
Well, I can and I can't because I understand he wants to hold the ball up there, but Tolu simply wasn't doing that very well on Sunday. I didn't think. I'd rather it be someone you can knock the ball into the line too, and Armstrong will run after it, and then he can hold the ball with his feet and invite other people to come up with him. I also thought the David Moller-Wolf sub, while he didn't do bad, was a strange one. I think I'd have rather seen Doherty or, if he's fit enough, Totti come on, a more natural defender, and then keep that cohesive unit at the back. I think he didn't do bad, as I say, Moller-Wolf when he came on. João Gomez came on late again. I don't know what's going on with him. It must be a fitness concern. Surely has to be. And then Rodrigo Gomez not coming on for Jackson Chapchua.
Yeah, I thought that was a very bizarre one.
Very bizarre. And I don't want to dig out Angel Gomez so early in his Wolves tenure, but I don't feel like that was the kind of game where he was going to add anything to us. We weren't having enough of the ball for him to play his game. We didn't have enough time on the ball when we had it due to having the man disadvantage. I think Rodrigo Gomez would have been a lot more suitable of a player to get at the defender. I think Rodrigo should have started, but I think Chapchua started was probably Rob Edwards sending a bit of a message that we're standing by this player after he was jeered off against Arsenal. But ultimately, I think it
proved again. Ultimately, in my opinion,
it costs us going forward massively, and it didn't help us defensively with the goal. I don't think it was Jackson's worst game by any stretch of the imagination. He just isn't good enough.
I completely agree. And with that brings the Palace game to a close. Overall, what were you rating the Wolves support and Palace support?
The Wolves support was good. A lot of chants.
Of course. All I could hear on TV, may I add?
Yeah, a lot of the chants directed towards Strand Larsen, which I won't be repeating, but were very enjoyable at the time. Thankfully, didn't score to shut us up, but did get the final laugh in the fact that they won. The Palace support was extremely quiet. I understand it's one of the grounds where the away end is quite far away from the main stand where all the singing goes on, but it still seemed very quiet until they scored that last goal.
I couldn't hear anything on TV.
Yeah, well, until that last goal, and then it did explode into noise for the last 5 minutes or so. But of course, they're a club a bit similar to us, obviously not as bad as us, with a bit of unrest at the minute. Not happy with the way that the club seems to be going, so that might be something to do with it. But yeah, with all due respect to Crystal Palace, it's not one I'd be rushing to go back to if we are to come back up.
Yeah. Opportunities missed, bored inept, fans disrespected, Glasner finish was the Crystal Palace banner before kick-off. Certainly a time of unrest, and it's time of unrest at Molineux, as we know, when it comes to our owners.
Speaking of that banner, by the way, my seats were so restricted that I couldn't even see that banner. I had no idea it happened until after the game.
Well, it says it all. Not the best viewpoint, it seems. Now, Creshy's red card. The thing I'm most annoyed about it is the fixture he'll be missing. Our next game, Villa at home at Molineux. Easiest 3 points of the season usually. And this year it's going to be a bit of a harder fixture. We're without Creshy, and we are stinking up the Prem. It's an 8 o'clock kickoff on Friday, the 27th of February. And Jacob, are you looking forward to this West Midlands derby, or are you more apprehensive?
Actually, I'm looking forward to it, to be honest. Look, it's one of those games where form goes out the window, usually. The amount of times that they've come to us being the better team in the last 2-3 years and we've turned them over. I honestly, I'm not expecting us to do it again, but I can easily see it happening. I don't think a lot of their form's been carried by that kind of November, December period. I don't think in the last couple of months and weeks they've actually been that impressive when I've watched them. Of course, Leeds came away from Villa Park with a draw. They're a lot better than us at the minute, Leeds. Of course they are, but they are gettable, Aston Villa. I thought when we played them at Villa Park, we were extremely unfortunate not to come away with something from that game.
Yeah, I'd agree. That was one of our better performances of the season as a whole.
And at Molineux, I think we have got every chance to turn them over. Villa, they'll know their abhorrent record against us. A lot of those players have played against us in those fixtures. I think it'll be one of the rare games this season where the Molineux atmosphere will help us on. I think
I agree. It should be rocking, hopefully.
Yeah, we'll be up for it, and I am quite looking forward to it, in honesty.
I have to agree. This is the one game I've been looking forward to throughout this season, actually, even when we were at our worst, just because, like you say, form goes out the window in these rivalry fixtures, and hopefully that works in our favour and we can find a second win of the Premier League season. I'm actually personally going to predict 2-1 Wolves win.
Yeah, I mean, I'd think something along the same lines, but
I'm being very optimistic.
I'd say we just screw it and be super optimistic. I'm going for 3-0 Wolves win.
Wow, I do not see that happening by any
means.
means.
Why? But it's going to happen. I'm speaking it into existence.
I would hope so. Other than Creshy being absent due to suspension, no fresh injury concerns as far as I'm aware. But this could all change by the time Rob does his pre-match press conference. And Villa, also with a fully fit squad, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, more or less, I'm pretty sure. I know Tammy Abraham's coming back into the mould now, fully fit.
Yeah, a goal against Leeds last game.
Yeah, Leon Bailey.
Who likes to score against us.
Yes. Leon Bailey's obviously been recalled and is starting to get a run of games again. So they've got talented players, but they just can't win at Molineux, can they? So
famous last words, maybe. Well, touch wood, Jacob, because we'll be hoping for a better result. But I personally am all out of words. And Jacob, I'm wondering if you have anything left to say.
Big week ahead, of course. Is it this Wednesday, Tuesday? We play Liverpool
next Tuesday
after Villa.
Yeah.
So wow, we've got 3 games in the space of the next 10 days. 2 of which against the same opposition, all 3 at Molineux. Wow. I mean, this is so enjoyable. I can't wait to be at Molineux 3 times in the next 10 days and probably lose on aggregate about 15-0. But yeah, no, I think that's all from us. Keep an eye on our socials: TikTok, Instagram, X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. Some stuff hopefully going to be going out on there in the near future, whenever our schedules allow for it to happen. Hopefully some more interactive content. I think they've done quite well, particularly on the TikTok. So yeah, keep supporting it. It does honestly mean a lot to us. We're pushing that 50th episode now, which is mental to think. Wow. We've actually lasted. There's still people listening to this podcast.
Even while Wolves are this bad.
Yeah. Next year we might actually have some wins to talk about, but might have one to talk about next week because we are playing Aston Villa. So that's all from me. I'm going to stop blabbering now. Head back to you, Cameron.
Yeah, we'll be back with you next week for that double header against Liverpool. We'll preview both those games for you and let us know our thoughts on Aston Villa. Now, it's been a pleasure to have you listening if you've made it this far. I've been Cameron Gorman. I've been joined by the ever-present Jacob Jones. It's goodbye from me. Goodbye from Jacob. And we will see you next week. Thank you for listening.
Ciao.
This is KIC Radio.